So, Nick, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Great to be here. Thanks.
great to have you on the show. And before we walk into the future, Nick, please tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Grew up in Johannesburg, born and bred. Went to school at St. Stithians College. Then did my varsity career down in Cape Town, which was wonderful. After Cape Town, did the business science degree down in Cape Town with the accounting stream, and then went into doing my accounting articles with KPMG up in Johannesburg. I actually really enjoyed it. I learned a lot in my, being an accountant, being able to get under the hood of many companies, see what they're doing. Very swift learning curve. And then post that, joined the family business. I had an opportunity to join the family business, which was great. It was a big opportunity to, really sink my teeth into a little bit more of leadership, but that only came a bit later. So joined that in 2009 and really been here ever since and hopefully taking the business forward.
Great. And tell us, Nick, what was your dream career when you grew up?
I probably had rosy eyes as a kid growing up. I think it's, if I had to be honest with myself, probably to become a game ranger was my dream career. That didn't quite materialize, and I think I quickly learned some of the limitations that there are of living in the bush, and some of my other dreams wouldn't be lived. But that was probably my first passionate, and that's my first dream job, was to become a game ranger.
And
stuck out in the bush.
Right. Well, I guess it's not too far away from what you're doing today. It's also kind of hospitality.
Yeah, their lines are somewhat, yeah.
And tell us, Nick, who inspired you in your early days?
So probably some of my first inspirations probably came, reading books, and probably was Richard Branson. It was probably my first real strong role model. I think I really liked what he was doing. I liked the fact that he was kind of cool and that he made business cool, but really, learning more about Richard and, just his fearless tenacity, his way he saw problems differently, his customer-centric viewpoints of everything. He certainly was a role model and still is today, I think, and I still follow Richard and see what he's up to and still get inspiration from him. Probably some of my other role models growing up and a bit later on in life, always loved Desmond Tutu. I think he's a fantastic leader. I think he again saw problems from a very different perspective, and wasn't scared to really voice his opinions. His compassion, empathy, all absolutely fantastic traits, and I think great leadership qualities. More recently, some of my role models, Simon Sinek. I think I'm sure a lot of us follow Simon. I think it's I really enjoy the way he portrays leadership, his kind of deep connection to values, to vision. He's not talking what we often anticipate leaders to talk about, is growth and profit. He talks much more to the heart of it and what I believe future leadership is more aligned to. Paul Polman is another great leader. I think he's out there doing some great things. I enjoy following him. So those are some of the leaders that probably inspire me and have shaped the way I lead today.
So, Nick, what would you say is driving you today?
In terms of my leadership qualities, what describes me?
Sorry, what's driving? Sorry, I meant.
What am I striving
what's
for?
Driving? No. What is driving you today? What is motivating you?
What is driving
energizing?
Me? Brilliant.
Exactly? Yeah.
So, look, I think what really drives me today is I do, and probably hearing from my early career adventures of being a game ranger, I do have a connection to the natural world. I really do. I feel it draws me, and I believe there's a lot we can learn from it. And I think it's incredibly relevant at the moment with climate change and the effects we're having there, and just some of the challenges we have coming our way. I think so. The natural world, the way it comes together and what we can learn from the natural world is certainly something that does inspire me, and I get a lot of inspiration out of it. I firmly believe that if we as human beings are able to connect better with each other and better with our environment, that being a social environment, our natural environment, then the world has to be a better place. And I think we've lost some of that at the moment. So kind of forcing people or leading people to try and connect better with each other in the natural world are probably the areas that draw me and drive me at the moment most.
Thank you. Now, Nick, looking into the future, and you touched on it already, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Yeah, Nick, I think that, trying to understand what a future leader is, I think it's always been the same. And I think it's probably quite an easy, I can give the easy answer first, which is, a future leader needs to tackle future problems. And I think that's been, no matter when we've looked at it, that future leaders always had to do that. So what is a future leader in my mindset? Is really to identify what are some of the biggest problems that we have coming our way and what are some of the challenges we're going to be facing. And you could rephrase that into what are the opportunities. An opportunity really is just an unsolved problem at itself. But some of the bigger problems I see coming our way and what a future leaders needing to tackle are going to be, we currently, we have this obsession with growth being the solution for everything that we do. And I think future leaders are going to be leaders that are able to unpack this and put us on a different trajectory. I think growth, unfortunately, has a finite limit. Our planet only has so much space it can grow in. And our obsession with this growth being the solution to everything is going to come to an end. It's just really a matter of when. And I think future leaders are leaders that understand this problem and are able to tackle it well. I don't think it's future leaders often are seeing things that are slightly different and they're voicing concerns that maybe don't resonate that well with people. We don't like the messaging. But future leaders are going to be the people that are able to carry this forward and are going to be able to tackle these issues. So, yeah, certainly I think a future leader is somebody who's going to be able to tackle that. Other areas future leaders are going to need to be focusing on are, there's enough documented evidence nowadays on the limitations that we've exceeded, the overshoots that we've got on our planetary boundaries, our cultural complexities, the inequality between our fellow citizens in areas. All of those are going to be big challenges which are going to be coming our way. They're going to lend themselves to big opportunities, but future leaders are people that understand that. They're going to see things differently and they're going to be able to tackle those problems. So in a nutshell, that's probably what I see coming out of future leaders.
And Nick, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders? In other words, what is it we have to do more to develop and encourage and build future leaders?
Yeah, I think there's, at the moment in the world, and it's only getting faster, is, a future leader has to embrace change. They have to just love it. I think if they're not prepared if they're scared of change, they're going to really struggle. So that is certainly something that a future leader needs to be very comfortable with. One of the things that I see less of these days, but maybe it's always been there, is that, people that take ownership. There's almost a lack of just taking true ownership of problems, true ownership of situations. So certainly something that a future leader is going to need to do is to be very comfortable with taking complete ownership of problems. Often it's not your fault or even your team's fault that certain things have happened, but taking ownership of that problem and owning it and being comfortable with that is certainly a quality a future leader is going to have. I think we also need to really open our eyes to what the bigger problems are. I think the world's got so complex that it's very easy to bury our head in the sand in a particular niche market or a particular focal point, areas of our strengths. And I think future leaders are going to have to really open their minds to the bigger picture. What is this full picture looking like? How am I connected to it? What is the impact I have? And realize that it's not okay just to exploit a particular area or make returns in a particular area, but how is that really connected to the bigger picture and the bigger puzzle at play? Being respectful, being humble, being grateful, they're all qualities of a great leader, and I think they're really going to be important into the future. I think we've got some challenges coming our way, and I think those are some of the traits and skills that are really going to assist future leaders to be influential.
Now, Nick, since you mentioned challenges, the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next, it seems. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome in their career?
Yeah, I think that's probably wrapped up. I mean, radical change is certainly going to be one of the challenges that's facing us. And I think it's probably fueled by resource restraints and resource limitations. As greater pressure gets influenced and there's greater pressure on resources, the need to find solutions to that problem becomes, it's almost a battle. As resources become scarce, so does the battle intensify, and with that becomes more change. So being comfortable with change and being able to work in and around it is going to be absolutely key. It's certainly one of the biggest challenges we're going to be facing. Also, being able to discern between what is right, what is real information, and what is unreal information, and what is just noise. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of mistrust that's being brought in. So again, that's going to be a big challenge that future leaders are going to have to face. Who can they trust? What information can they trust? And they're going to have to apply discernment very, well into that environment. They're going to have to be experts at that. Also being empathetic is not sympathy. We're certainly not out here to help everybody, and we need people to help themselves. But being able to lead and put yourself in other people's shoes and see it from their perspective is also going to be a major challenge. I don't think there's enough of that at the moment in the world, and if future leaders are able to connect with that and be more empathetic and able to put themselves in other people's perspectives, I think it can only help us and deliver better leaders.
Now, Nick, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are maybe one or two key skills and maybe new skills you would want to factor in and maybe teach?
So I think the curriculum for learners is or for leaders would be, I think you need to have the ability to learn fast. Things are changing very quickly, and you've got to be able to learn quickly. And in any field, I think it's not just necessarily in a niche field. Certainly don't just apply your learning to leadership. But if you can develop skills to absorb and learn information quickly, I think it's certainly a skill that leaders have to have going. I think it'd be a critical element to a curriculum if I was to design one. Being able to sift through a lot of noise information very quickly and be discerning. I mean, be very careful of what is right and what is wrong, and being able to pick up that would be a huge skill. It certainly would help me. It's something, if I could improve on that, it's certainly a skill I would like to learn more of and work towards. Being empathetic, I think understanding what that truly means, how to connect with people, how to understand the world and the challenges they're facing, put yourself into their shoes. I definitely think that's a skill future leaders are going to need, and it's certainly a skill that I would put into a leadership course. Being comfortable with technology. I think everything these days is driven by technology, and being comfortable in learning that. Again, I'm probably tying in with my first curriculum point, which is the ability to learn quickly. Be comfortable on new platforms, be comfortable on what technology can add, be comfortable on opportunities technology brings. There's certainly a lot to be learned in that space. I think AI would certainly be one of the course criteria in there. What exactly that means, I think we're all grappling with. But being able to understand what benefits AI can bring to a situation, and also what impacts it's going to have negatively, and navigate that well, is going to be some of the key factors. So, probably in a nutshell, those would be my core elements of a curriculum, and I think those are certainly skills that future leaders are going to need to have.
Thank you. Now, Nick, as a mentor to many future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that leader took your advice to heart?
Yeah, thanks. Nick, I'm quite lucky to work in quite a big organization with a lot of people. Hospitality being really a people-centric business, we get quite a lot of opportunities to mentor people. And also we see people being mentored throughout our organization. So we've had many team members that have grown up or moved through the different roles, ranks from a housekeeper, porter, right up to the general manager positions, leading resorts and making decisions. I think, if we've got quite a few success stories throughout our group. But I think the role that I've played most in that is really providing a stage for how these employees, how these team members have been able to grow. And really, it's been a journey of holding space for them, letting them understand or find their own potential. Some of the mistakes I probably made early on in mentoring team members is I try to solve the problems for them and try to find solutions that were my solutions and not their solutions. So certainly listening and just providing that space and holding that space for them to learn more about their own skills, learn more about their own potential, and being that guiding point certainly has been some of the things that have helped me in providing mentorships and giving people the opportunity to grow. We've got guys right on up to our exco that have worked their way through many levels. Right from being, I think one of our exco members started as a waiter, and now sitting on our exco team. I can't take credit for all of that. I certainly only ever played a very small part of that journey. But just creating the stage for those journeys to take place is key, and and it certainly helped us as our business. I think the other areas that it's trying to align. Often what we do is we look at business and we look at opportunities from an operational aspect. What do we need? What functions, what roles do we need to be fulfilled to achieve the business objectives and goals? And one of the things that we've done is, not to say turn that on the head, but we've looked at it from the other direction. And we've said, how do we manage to align the current employees, team members we have into roles that are suited for them? And how do we manage to celebrate what's special in those individuals into roles within our business? And sometimes we even created roles that we didn't have before, which align to high-performing individuals. And I think having that mindset and having a team that's open to that has certainly made the journey of mentoring and growing team members a lot easier. There's some of the great leaders are able to have a conversation with a team member or an individual, and they automatically know what they're good at and what drives them. Are they good at teamwork? Are they autonomous learners? Do they have good authority? I'm unfortunately not that lucky, and I need a bit of help along the way. So we've lent on a lot of technologies out there in the market, from personality tools where we can understand what makes an individual tick. We currently using a very nice product in Ecomatrix, which helps us align it really creates 22 constructs of an individual, and that's given us a lot of insights into making sure when team members grow, they grow into the right spaces, and they're growing really to their strengths and they're not being promoted into areas where they're then destined to fail and they're misaligned to. So those have certainly been, we don't always get it right. I wish we got it, it'd be lovely if we could say we got it right every time. But there's certainly been tools that have helped us on that journey of mentoring our team and growing our team internally.
And Nick, looking back over your own leadership career, are there any role models of leadership who you have encountered and maybe worked with, who you would recommend future leaders should learn from?
Yeah, so there are lots, I think, and they pop up probably in the strangest places. Within the industry, I've got a lot of role models that I look up to. Dion Follion's been one of them. He's been a great guy, come really through the Southern Sun ranks, been a fantastic role model, and I've learned a lot from him. So I think there's, on the broader spectrum, right now, I would say if you're looking for guys to follow, leaders to follow, on the international scene, I would certainly recommend Simon Sinek. I think he's great, and I would love him to do more in terms of world leadership. But if you're looking for a role model to follow, certainly Simon Sinek would be one of them. Maybe a little closer to home, I've recently had the privilege of working a little bit with Craig Foster, and I think he's doing some wonderful things. He was the producer and of My Octopus Teacher. I think he's another great individual that we can learn a lot from. And I would if you get the opportunity to follow him, I certainly would. I think he's seeing the world differently, and he's seeing the challenges the world's facing slightly differently, and he's got a really nice spin on world leadership. He's actually driving a thought process at the moment and a necessary process of how do we manage to bring Mother Nature into the boardroom. And I think it's a really lovely initiative that many of our local leaders and international leaders, company CEOs, if we can start doing that, I think it would really drive change and the right type of change that the world needs, and certainly would be something that future leaders should be looking into.
Great. Now, Nick, where can our listeners follow you, and how can they connect with you?
Thanks, Nick. You probably touched on one of my weaknesses here. Thank you. So it's I'm not a big social media. I haven't been, but I've given myself the challenge this year that I probably need to be better at it. My LinkedIn profile is active, but it's I need to do a lot more on it. So it's probably not a bad space. I'll commit to putting a bit more out there and being a little bit more open to that. But I'd say the LinkedIn profile probably a good area. We have got, just within our business itself, we've got, from a marketing side, we do PR campaigns and thought leadership pieces. We've got a business unit called Arts of Creation, which is really out there to tackle how we can blend some of these new world problems or these real problems facing the world into our operational processes. There are a couple of things that will hopefully come out of that in the tourism space. And that would hopefully be through the tourism organizations like CBCSA and the likes, FedARSA. Hopefully there'll be some pieces coming out in that space. But probably the best link would be my LinkedIn page, and I'll try and commit to putting a bit more out there so people can follow it if they're interested.
Great. And last but not least, Nick, what is your advice for the millions of learners out there who just finished school, who are looking to start a career? What are maybe one or two success factors that they should take to heart?
Certainly, I think, and I think it's reiterated many times over, but follow your passion. I think that is so key. If you're in an environment that you're not passionate about, you're not going to be able to bring your full self to the table. But having said that, also don't be scared to take opportunities that present themselves. It doesn't mean you have to find your passion in your very first job. You can use those first opportunities as stepping stones, but keep in mind what your purpose and passion is, I think. And if it all lends yourself to that direction, then you're heading in the right space. What we see sometimes in our younger employees is that they come with passion and they come with purpose, but they want to get it all done in the first week. And I think there is stepping stones that need to be taken. And so take that journey slowly would be my advice and guidance. Make sure you know what your passion and purpose is and work towards it, but take that journey slowly. And be brave. Don't be scared. I think there's I've certainly found myself in the space where it's easier sometimes to blend into the background, let somebody else take the limelight, not voice your opinions. But if you are going to be a leader and a strong leader, you've got to be able to stand up and be brave, own that space, own your viewpoints, and be confident in what you have to deliver. And I think maybe tying in with the theme, if I had to say the skills of for our younger guys is be open to learning, please. Learn everything that you possibly can, learn fast, and at the same time also be prepared to unlearn. There's certain things that we may need to unlearn. Often we've got history, we've got learning histories, and then that closes the door to future learnings. And I think sometimes we need to be prepared to unlearn what we've learned in the past. So those would probably be some of my takeouts that to an upcoming leader now that I would recommend they really sink their teeth into.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick, for making time to share your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and for reminding us that we all have to reconnect, right, with each other and with the world and Mother Nature.
Yeah, great, Nick. Well, I'm glad you took that out, and I'm glad you were able to summarize that. I'm glad that came across. And it's been an absolute pleasure sharing it. And please, guys are welcome to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn if they want to. Thanks, Nick.